Hello and welcome to English for You. Reese and Chicklin are here with a spooky ghost story. My favorite. This story is called The Beckoning Fair One. To beckon means to call somebody over.
Oh, that sounds scary.
Kind of in a spooky way. And this story was originally by Oliver Onions, which is one of the best names I've ever heard in my life. Do you like ghost stories, Chicklin?
I do. Do you have any nice ghost story to share with me?
Nice ghost stories. Well, my hometown actually in the UK is a very old place and we have many old ghost stories. One of them is about a big black dog that runs into a church and kills a man and his son on the altar. And then on the way out, the dog scratches the door. And those scratches are actually still there today.
Oh, wow.
I've seen them in person.
Oh my goodness. So are they huge?
They're huge, big scratch marks in the wooden door. And people say if you see a black dog out in the woods today, it's very bad luck. And it means that somebody you know might die.
Oh my goodness. I actually have a black dog back home.
Well, let's get into the article before we have too much bad luck. The Beckoning Fair One.
Reading. The Beckoning Fair One. The building looked old and tired and seemed as though no one had lived in it for at least a decade. The red bricks were interrupted by for rent signs that had hung outside for as long as the neighbors could remember. For 6 months, novelist Paul Oleron had walked past this building on his way from his home to a room he rented for work. Oleron's home was just a small room, which is fine for sleeping and a little reading, but not much more. That's why he had rented another place. He needed somewhere to work on writing his latest novel. The problem was that it was inconvenient to keep traveling between his home and his office. So Oleron decided to rent one of the properties in the old building. A few days after moving in, Oleron's friend Elsie came to visit. Elsie hated the new place. She thought it was taking Oleron's attention away from his work. What she hated more, though, was Oleron's decision to write his entire novel again. In her opinion, the version looked like his best work so far.
Okay, let's get into our ghost story. The building looked old and tired, and seemed as though no one had lived in it for at least a decade. The red bricks were interrupted by for rent signs that had hung outside for as long as the neighbors could remember. Ooh, I like this introduction.
Me too, 好可怕哦。所以这边 as though 就是好像或仿佛的意思，所以你可以说 as if， 那中文意思就是仿佛嘛。所以呢，我们在口语中呢，我们就可以，如果是我们讲这件事情是与现在事实相反，就是用过去式。那 like 在口语中呢，可以代替 as 跟 as if 跟 as though 来表达跟过去式相反。好，我们刚刚讲，我们直接看句子好，太复杂 ，so complicated. Let's just take a look at the sentence. 所以 the bridge didn't look as though it would hold. 代表呢，那一个桥看起来好像快要倒了的意思。
The story used the word interrupt, which is a verb, and to interrupt something means to stop something from happening, to get in the middle of a process, to get in the way of something. You could interrupt a meeting by bursting into the room, or you could rudely interrupt a conversation by joining in when you're not welcome. Here's an example sentence using interrupt. Please don't interrupt the class while I'm talking. Wait until the end to ask questions.
所以老师刚刚讲的这个字呢 interrupt 指的就是中断或阻隔，所以比如说我们的名词就是 interruption， 那我们可以造一个句子 He spoke for 25 minutes without interruption。 那所以呢，老师一开始这个文章好可怕，我们来讲一下鬼故事。这个建筑呢看起来老旧不堪，好像至少有10年都没有人在里面住过，而且从邻居们有记忆以来这个红砖墙上面的出租标志就已经挂在那边了。
What a great way to start a ghost story. We have our setting, an old empty house that has been empty for many, many years. Well, let's continue. So back to the story. It says, for 6 months, novelist Paul Oleron had walked past this building on his way from his home to a room he rented for work. Okay, so now we have a setting and a character. Our character is a novelist. The word novelist is a noun, and a novelist is a person who writes novels. And if you didn't know, a novel is just a fancy word for a storybook. So a novelist is a person who writes stories. Here's an example sentence. If you're a good writer and have a creative mind, you could consider being a novelist.
所以 novelist 就是小说家，你们会觉得它跟那个 novel 这个字很像啊，它就是它来的哦，它就是小说的意思。所以诗人呢就是 poet， 那如果他们诗人写的就会写诗嘛，就是 poem。那一样呢，我们可以造一个句子 ，She is not only a novelist but also a poet。所以呢，文章中说这个房已经持续6个月了，这个小说家呢 Oleron 他从他家到工作室呢，都会路过这栋很老的建筑。
Okay, so let's see what Mr. Oleron is going to get up to.
Yeah.
Oleron's home was just a small room, which is fine for sleeping and a little reading, but not much more. That's why he had rented another place. He needed somewhere to work on writing his latest novel.
I agree, because I think you have to have a studio for you to work.
Yeah, you know, when I do my writing for AMC, I like to find a nice cafe to sit down in for half a day and do my writing.
Not like in your bedroom where you just go straight to your bed and feel like sleeping, you know?
Plus, my cat's always bothering me at home.
Yeah, 对，所以呢，我们就知道说 Oleron 他的家其实很小，大家就是睡觉啊跟阅读，所以他就又租了另外一个工作室，因为他需要额外的空间来写他最新的小说。
Sounds like a good idea, or is it? Let's have a look. The problem was that it was inconvenient to keep traveling between his home and his office. So, Oleron decided to rent one of the properties in the old building. Ooh, things are getting spooky.
那我们这边有看到一个今天的文法。好啦，那我们要讲的文法是什么呢？就是 the truth or the fact or the problem is that blah blah blah。那这个用法呢，这个 that 子句呢，在 be 动词后面，它是扮演什么角色呢？它扮演是补充说明内容的这个角色。那我们从课文的句子为例哦。The problem was that it was inconvenient to keep traveling between his home and his office. 那在这个句子里面呢 that 子句呢，他说 that it was blah 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 怎么样？它是来说明 the problem， 代表说呢，他觉得这样子很麻烦，就是 keep traveling 这件事情。所以呢，在不影响句意的情况下，我们的 that 也是可以省略。我们再看一个句子。The truth is that 我们可以拿掉，变成 the truth is they don't even realize their mistakes.
The story also said that it was inconvenient for him to move between his home and his office so often. The word inconvenient is an adjective and it means not convenient, or something that causes trouble, difficulties, or discomfort. Something inconvenient is annoying to do. There's some trouble in the process that will make that thing difficult. Sometimes it's inconvenient, for example, to live so far out of the city. It can be hard to find groceries.
所以呢 inconvenient 就是不方便的嘛。那老师有提到哦，它的另外一个字就是 convenient， 代表方便的。
We also saw the word properties. A property is a piece of land or a building that you can use to live in or use as a business. Your property is something that you own. So when we talk about somebody's properties, we're talking about the land or the buildings that they own. An example sentence could be, my family own a property in London, which is worth over £1 million.
Sell it.
It's not true. I wish it was.
Okay, 所以 property 呢就是地产跟房产，所以私人房产你就可以说 private property。比如说 the brothers were able to inherit their grandfather's private property. Wow, so good. 所以呢，问题呢就在一直这样来回通过，你通勤嘛，你要从家里然后又到工作室，这是还蛮麻烦的，所以他就决定租了这个老建筑里面的其中一个地产。
Okay, well, back to the story, and we're about to meet a new character. A few days after moving in, Oleron's friend Elsie came to visit. Elsie hated the new place. The story used the phrase moving in. This is a verb phrase, and to move into a place means to start living in a new apartment or a new house. When you move in, you need to take all of your stuff from your old place and move it to the new place. And that's why we call it moving in, because you move yourself and your things into the new place. If you buy a new house, you might not move in right away. It could take you a few weeks to prepare the home, so then eventually you'll move in. Hey, it's not the Elsie that we know, is it?
Maybe
it's Elsie.
Okay, maybe it's Elsie. Yeah. 所以呢，这个 move 呢 ，move in 就是搬进来，所以你可以说 moving with someone 就是跟谁搬进去住一起同住的感觉。比如说 Laura can't wait to move in with her boyfriend。所以搬进去几天之后呢，作家的朋友 Elsie 就来拜访他，但是他非常不喜欢那个地方。Is it because that it's too old?
Maybe Elsie has some kind of peculiar feeling about this place. Let's find out. She thought it was taking Oleron's attention away from his work. What she hated more, though, was Oleron's decision to write his entire novel again. Okay, so Elsie doesn't like this place because it's changing the way that Oleron behaves. I wonder if there's something that's causing that change. We also saw the word decision, which is a noun, and a decision is a conclusion or resolution that you reach after some consideration. That just means a choice that you make, something you do or decide after you think about it for a long time. When we make a decision, we usually think carefully about what we want to do or what we should do. Then we can make our decision. The verb form is to decide, to make a choice. Here's an example sentence. After thinking for a long time, my decision is that we should cancel the event.
所以 decision 就是决定嘛。那如果做一个决定就是 make a decision. 比如说 it always takes him a long time to make a decision, especially a big one. 那或者是 decide, 它就是它的动词。比如说 to decide to do something or to decide on 什么东西什么名词。比如说 they've decided to offer the job to Connor. 或者是呢我们后面加一个名词或一个名词子句的感觉。Have you decided on what to wear for the ceremony?
Well, let's take a look at the word entire now. The word entire is an adjective and it just means all of it, the whole thing. The whole thing so much that no part is left out. For example, Chickalin ate the entire cake. That means she ate the whole thing. Or, true story, yesterday I spent the entire day in bed. I'm super lazy. Or I could say, my entire family has blue eyes. That means everybody in my family has blue eyes. Here's an example sentence. The entire class must stay after school to finish their homework.
Entire 就是整个或全部的，所以我们可以说 entire country 或 entire life
一辈子。
对，或 entire family, entire building, entire cake 他刚刚说我吃了一整个所以比如说 don't wolf down an entire chocolate cake. You don't want to suffer from the indigestion, do you?
You.
Yeah, it's me. 所以呢他觉得这个星座的地方呢把 Oleron 的心思都带走了，而且他更不喜欢另外一件事，就是 Oleron 居然要重写整个小说。
Well, back to the story and back to Elsie's opinion. It says, in her opinion, the version looked like his best work so far. Let's talk about the word opinion here. Elsie has one. What is it? Opinion is a noun, and opinion is basically what you think. The way that you feel and think about something is your opinion. It's your view or judgment about something. We often make opinions about things after learning or experiencing them. Everybody's opinions are different. Just make sure you have your own opinion and don't just copy other people. You know, I think vanilla ice cream is the best flavor, but you might have a different opinion. You might prefer chocolate. Here's an example sentence. I don't have a good opinion of Daniel. He's always mean to people.
可以写 opinion 就是意見或看法，所以你對什麼事情講的是事情，老師剛剛講的是人，所以我們放 off， 但是什麼事情有什麼看法，你可以說 What's your opinion on or about something？ 所以比如說呢，這個醜聞你有什麼意見嗎？ What's your opinion on the scandal？ 或者是呢 in someone's opinion 代表按某人的意見或某個人的依據某人來看怎麼樣，所以比如說 in my opinion the movie lacks content， 然後我們另外看到一個字就是 version， 因為可能 Elsie 覺得呢他現在寫的這個版本就已經是最好的，所以呢 Elsie 覺得已經最好了，為什麼還要再重寫一次呢？
Alright, so Elsie thinks that the book that he wrote was already good, he shouldn't change it, but the house is influencing him in some way to make him write something else?
Maybe.
Ooh, sounds like the beginnings of a ghost story. Well, that's all we have for day 1, but we'll be back tomorrow for day 2 of our story about the novelist and his spooky house. Let's go to our...
Wait.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting and spooky. Let's have our For You Chat question now.
For You Chat.
So, Chicklin, our For You Chat question today. Do you find it easy to study in your bedroom, or do you need another place to work? Explain your answer.
Just do not ever put your desk in your bedroom. No, in your bed in the same room. Okay. You know what I mean? I can't do that because, I used to have this desk in my bedroom and I found it hard to focus. I just wanted to sleep all the time and I'll be like, okay, I think I'm just going to go take a nap and I'll be back and study, and then I just never come back and study. So it's really not a good idea for me. What about you?
Me too. I think I remember reading a study where psychologists said it's really important to separate your leisure space from your workspace.
True.
So you should not study or work in your bedroom because the bedroom is a place that you associate with rest and relaxation.
Yeah.
So if you try and do work in that room, you're going to find it very difficult. So the best thing to do is find a different place in your house where there's less distractions and entertainment, or go to a coffee shop, I often go to like Starbucks or Louisa Coffee if I want to get out of the house. I'll take my computer and just do some writing there.
Yeah.
You only have to pay for 1 cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You guys can think about this question too. If you really need to get some work or homework done, where do you go and how do you do it? You can talk about this with your friends and maybe swap some techniques. But that's all we have for today. We'll be back tomorrow for day 2 of our story, The Spooky House.
Vocabulary Review.
Interrupt. Our way back was interrupted by a huge rock on the road. That's why we arrived home late. Novelist. The American novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald's books didn't become very famous until after his death. Property. Grace put up a fence around her home and yard to separate her property from her neighbors. Decision. After thinking about it for months, Joe made the decision to leave his job and return to school. Entire. Our family ate the entire pizza in 30 minutes, so there is none left now. Opinion. If you want my opinion, I think the blue dress looks better on you than the red one.
智慧小补帖
Inconvenient. Version.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net